Marcus Reaper Cordova pulled into Murphy's Gas and Go, expecting a routine fuel stop. What he found 7 minutes later would trigger the largest search and rescue operation Flathead County had seen in 15 years. His 7-year-old son had vanished into a whiteout blizzard through the convenience store's back exit, disoriented in seconds, walking toward what he thought were the motorcycles. By the time Marcus realized Liam was gone, visibility was 12 feet maximum, wind chill hit 31 degf, and medical experts were giving the boy 2 to 3 hours before fatal hypothermia. In the next 5 hours and 17 minutes, a homeless veteran nobody had noticed in 3 years would make a choice that should have killed him. And 240 bikers would prove that sometimes the people society throws away are exactly the heroes we need most. Hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because what Tommy Sullivan did with nothing but Army Ranger training and a broken heart will change how you see the invisible people all around you. Rangers don't leave anyone behind. Stay with me, son. Help is coming. The words came out in white vapor clouds, Tommy Sullivan's voice barely audible over the howling wind. His arms were wrapped around something small. A child, bundled in layers that used to be Tommy's only possessions. His field jacket, both flannel shirts, his sleeping bag, everything. Tommy's body covered them all, positioned to block the wind, face pressed against frozen ground, giving the last of his warmth to a boy he'd never met. 4.3 miles away, Marcus Cordova was living every parent's nightmare. Liam! His voice was gone now, reduced to a hoarse rasp after 4 hours of screaming into the storm. Liam! The snow was coming down at 3 inches per hour. The temperature had dropped another 2 degrees since they'd stopped for gas. His son had been missing for 4 hours and 37 minutes. Wearing a red puffy jacket with a broken zipper, Batman snow boots with gaps at the ankles, blue mittens, he'd already lost one. Marcus had made 47 phone calls. Every brother in the Montana chapter, police, search and rescue, anyone who could help. 18 Hells Angels were searching in conditions that threatened frostbite after 20 minutes of exposure, and they'd found nothing. Marcus! The voice came from behind him. Victor Priest Dalton, club president, former Army chaplain, the closest thing Marcus had to a father figure since his own dad died. Priest's face was grave. Search and Rescue's thermal cameras picked up something. 4 miles south. 2 heat signatures close together. Marcus's heart stopped, then hammered so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. One's fading, Priest added quietly. We need to move. Now! What Marcus didn't know was that Tommy Sullivan had found his son 2 hours and 48 minutes ago. Tommy had been in his shelter under the Highway 93 overpass when the blizzard intensified around 8:30 p.m. He'd been preparing to survive the night, the way he'd survived 3 Montana winters already. Layers, his sleeping bag, his small propane camp stove with maybe 20 minutes of fuel left. Then he'd heard something. Crying. Faint. Could have been wind. But rangers are trained to investigate anomalies. Tommy had grabbed his dollar store flashlight, batteries weak, beam flickering, and left his shelter. Stumbled through knee-deep snow, following a sound that kept disappearing under wind gusts. 200 yards from his overpass, near a fallen pine tree, he'd found him. A small boy, 7, maybe 8 years old, curled against the tree trunk. Lips blue, skin pale with a dangerous tint, shaking so violently the newspapers he'd buried himself under rustled like leaves. The boy was trying to unzip his jacket. Tommy's combat medicine training kicked in immediately. That was paradoxical undressing, a sign of severe hypothermia. The body's temperature regulation system failing. The brain confused, sending signals that the person is overheating when they're actually freezing to death. This child had maybe 90 minutes. Less if Tommy didn't act now. He'd dropped to his knees beside the boy. "Hey there, buddy. Can you hear me?" The child's eyes had opened. Unfocused, glassy. "Cold," he'd whispered. "Want Daddy." "I know, son. I'm going to help you get warm. What's your name?" Liam." His teeth chattered so hard he bit his tongue. Blood on his blue lips. Liam C. Cordova. Tommy had 3 options. Carry the boy back to his shelter, but 200 yards in a whiteout could get them both lost, and the child might not survive transport. Build an emergency shelter here with available materials, but there were no materials, and the boy was already critical. Or option 3, human shield. Use his body as a barrier against the wind. Share core body heat directly. Sacrifice his layers to wrap the child. Buy time until rescue came. Tommy knew the math. His core temperature was maybe 96.5 degrees Celsius, already lower than it should be after 3 years of malnutrition and exposure. The boy's was probably 89 to 90 degrees Celsius, deep into severe hypothermia territory. By giving the boy every layer, Tommy would lose heat faster than he could generate it. His timeline to hypothermia would accelerate, his survival window would close, but the boy would have a chance. "Okay, Liam," Tommy had said gently, already pulling off his field jacket, the one possession from his army days he'd kept through everything. "I'm going to wrap you up warm, and then I'm going to keep you safe until your daddy finds you. Can you be brave for me?" Liam had nodded, too cold to speak. Tommy wrapped him in the field jacket first, then the flannel shirts, layering them like he'd learned in cold weather survival training. Then his sleeping bag, tucked tight around the small body. Finally, Tommy positioned himself over Liam, his larger frame blocking the wind, his chest pressed against the boy's back, his arms creating a cocoon. "What's your favorite thing?" Tommy asked, trying to keep Liam conscious. "Tell me something good." "Spider-Man," Liam whispered, "and Daddy, and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Mommy used to sing it." "Used to?" "She's in heaven now." Liam's voice cracked. "She got sick. It's just me and Daddy." Tommy's throat tightened. "Your daddy's looking for you right now, I promise. He's not going to stop until he finds you." "How do you know?" "Because that's what daddies do. They don't give up on their boys." Tommy had held him like that for 2 hours and 48 minutes, talking to him, singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when Liam started to drift, forcing his own body to generate heat even as his core temperature dropped, even as his fingers went numb, even as his thoughts started to slow and fragment. The mission was simple: keep Liam alive until rescue came. And Rangers complete their missions. The search and rescue team's truck bounced over frozen terrain, Marcus in the passenger seat, knuckles white as he gripped the door handle. Priest drove his Harley alongside them, headlight cutting through snow. More bikes behind, every brother who could safely navigate the conditions. 2 heat signatures, the SAR coordinator repeated into his radio. 1 adult, 1 child-sized. Adult's temperature reading is critically low, ETA 3 minutes. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except pray to a god he hadn't talked to since his wife Elena died 11 months ago. Please, please let it be him. Please let him be alive. The trucks skidded to a stop. Spotlights illuminated a scene Marcus would never forget. Near a fallen pine tree, barely visible under accumulated snow, was a shape. human-sized, face down, arms spread wide, completely still. "Oh God," someone breathed. "He's not moving." Marcus was out of the truck before it fully stopped, running, falling, scrambling forward, Priest right behind him. They reached the shape together. It was a man, thin, wearing nothing but a t-shirt and jeans now, soaking wet, frozen to his skin. His face pressed against the ground, his body positioned deliberately, arms wide, back curved, creating a shelter with his own flesh. Marcus grabbed him, turned him slightly. The man's skin was white, lips blue-purple, eyes closed. No visible breath. "Sir!" A paramedic was there, checking for a pulse. "Sir, can you hear me?" Nothing. "We've got no pulse at the wrist," the paramedic said urgently. "Checking carotid. Wait. There. Faint. Thready. Core temperature has to be critically low. Get the warming blankets." "What's he covering?" Marcus asked, voice breaking. "What's underneath him?" They carefully moved the man aside. And there, wrapped in a sleeping bag, 2 flannel shirts and a military field jacket, was Liam. Small, pale, blue-tinged lips, but breathing. Marcus made a sound he'd never made before, something between a sob and a gasp, and a prayer answered. He dropped to his knees, pulled back the layers with shaking hands. "Liam! Liam, buddy, it's Daddy!" Liam's eyes opened, slowly, confused. "Daddy? I've got you, son." "The soldier," Liam whispered. "Is he okay? He kept me warm. He sang Mommy's song." Marcus looked at the man who'd saved his son. The paramedics were working on him now, wrapping him in emergency blankets, calling out vitals that sounded like death sentences. "Core temp 86.1 degrees, severe hypothermia, possible cardiac arrest imminent, pneumonia developing. We need transport now." Another paramedic was checking Liam. "This one's 91.3 degrees, hypothermic but stable. Early frostbite on fingers, but he's going to make it. Without this shelter, without this heat source." She looked at the unconscious man. "Your son had maybe 30 minutes left. This man saved his life." Marcus stared at the stranger. Homeless, you could tell from the condition of his clothes, the gauntness of his face, the calluses on his hands. Nobody. Invisible. The kind of person people walk past every day without seeing. This man had given everything, his clothes, his warmth, his life force, to protect a child he didn't know. "Who is he?" Marcus asked. "No ID," a paramedic reported. "But there's a dog tag in his jeans pocket. Thomas Sullivan, U.S. Army." Priest knelt beside Marcus, put a hand on his shoulder. "Brother, you know what we have to do." Marcus nodded. Voice thick with emotion. "Blood debt." The call Marcus made from the back of the ambulance, Liam secured in his arms, both of them wrapped in warming blankets, would become legendary in Hell's Angels history. "Priest, it's Reaper." His voice was steady now, but Priest could hear the tears underneath. "My son is alive. A homeless vet saved him, used his own body to keep Liam warm for almost 3 hours. Almost died doing it. He's in critical condition now, and Priest, he's got nothing. No home, no family, no one. The system failed him. We can't fail him too." Silence on the line. Then, "Every brother within 300 miles, Kalispell Regional Medical Center, 10 a.m. tomorrow, full mobilization." "Priest, no arguments. You said it yourself. Blood debt. He saved your son. He's ours now." By 9:47 a.m. the next morning, Motorcycles began arriving at Kalispell Regional Medical Center from across Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. By 10 o'clock a.m., 240 Hells Angels stood in formation in the hospital parking lot. Priest addressed the Brotherhood, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "Brothers, yesterday a homeless veteran named Thomas Sullivan saved one of our own. He gave everything, his clothes, his warmth, his life itself, to protect a child he'd never met. He survived 3 tours in combat zones, earned a Bronze Star and Purple Heart, then came home to a country that forgot him. The VA denied his disability claims 3 times. He waited 4 years, 3 months for approval while living under a bridge. Last night he remembered who he was. A ranger. A protector. A brother." He looked around at the assembled faces. Men who'd seen their own brothers struggle, who knew how thin the line was between making it and falling through the cracks. Thomas Sullivan will never be homeless again, never hungry again, never invisible again. He's ours now. Blood debt. All in favor? For exactly 4 seconds, nothing. Just the cold December wind and the distant sound of hospital machines and 240 men deciding whether to commit their resources to saving a stranger. Then, one by one, every hand went up. Not a moment's hesitation. Not a single dissenting voice. 240. Men voting unanimously to save the man who'd saved one of theirs. "Unanimous," Priest said. "Brothers, we have work to do." The brothers didn't waste time. Within 2 hours of the vote, the hospital's conference room had been transformed into an operations center. Jason Wire Park, 31 years old, former Army intelligence, tech specialist who could find digital footprints most people didn't know existed, had 3 laptops open on the table. Gerald Bones Thompson, 58, ex-detective with 15 years navigating VA bureaucracy for struggling veterans, sat beside him with a legal pad already filling with notes. "We need everything," Priest said, standing at the head of the table. 20 core members present, the ones with specific skills for this mission. Thomas Sullivan's complete history, military service, VA claims, every denial, every rejection, every time the system said no to a man who served his country. Wire's fingers flew across keyboards. Already pulling service records. Thomas Ray Sullivan, U.S. Army Ranger, enlisted 2003, honorably discharged 2011. 2 tours Afghanistan, 1 tour Iraq. Awards include Bronze Star for Valor, Purple Heart for IED injuries sustained in 2009. So he's legitimately a combat veteran with documented injuries, Bones said, writing. That should have made his disability claim straightforward. What went wrong? Wire pulled up another screen. First VA disability claim filed March 2014. Claimed PTSD, traumatic brain injury from blast exposure, chronic pain from shrapnel wounds still embedded in his left leg. Claim denied August 2014. Reason stated, insufficient evidence of service connection. Bones's jaw tightened. Insufficient evidence for a Purple Heart recipient with documented IED injuries. Gets worse, Wire continued. Appeal filed November 2014, stuck in backlog for 18 months, denied again June 2016. Reason: medical records incomplete. Second appeal filed September 2016, still pending status. Third appeal filed January 2019. He looked up. Still pending. 4 years, 3 months waiting for a decision while living on the streets. The room went silent. Ramon Steele Torres, 52, former Marine, Purple Heart recipient himself, spoke up. I waited 3 years for my claim. 3 years of fighting while I couldn't work, couldn't pay rent, nearly lost everything. If my brother hadn't let me crash on his couch, I would have been exactly where Tommy is now. How many times did Tommy apply for VA housing assistance? Priest asked. Wire pulled up more records. 6 times, denied each time. Reasons vary. Missed appointments, but there's no reliable transportation from where he camps to the VA center. Doesn't meet immediate danger threshold, because apparently living under a bridge in Montana winters isn't immediate danger. No available funding, standard response when they don't want to approve someone. Mental health services? Patricia Vasquez, 44, ER nurse, the club's medical coordinator, asked from her seat near the window. Wait list, Wire said flatly. Applied for PTSD counseling in February 2019. Current estimated wait time, 17 months. He's been on that list for 4 years and still hasn't gotten a single appointment. Patricia's face hardened. So a combat veteran with documented PTSD, living on the streets, has been waiting 4 years for mental health care the VA is legally obligated to provide. That's the system, Steele said bitterly. I've seen it destroy more brothers than combat ever did. You come home broken, asking for help, and they bury you in paperwork until you give up or die. Tommy didn't give up, Marcus said quietly from the doorway. Everyone turned. He'd left Liam sleeping in his hospital room with 2 brothers standing guard. He kept going to appointments even though it's a 6.8-mile walk each way, kept filing appeals even though they kept rejecting him, kept surviving even when the system was designed to make him fail. And when he found my son dying in the snow, his first thought wasn't, I'm homeless and freezing. It was, Rangers don't leave anyone behind. Priest nodded slowly. Then we make sure his service, both to his country and to Marcus's son, isn't forgotten. Wire, what does Tommy need? Wire pulled up a financial breakdown. Immediate. Medical costs for hypothermia treatment, pneumonia care, frostbite management. Hospital estimates $34,720 for complete treatment and recovery. Done, Marcus said immediately. I'll cover it. The club will cover it, Priest corrected gently. Brotherhood Fund. We all contribute. Wire continued. Long-term, housing. I found a 2-bedroom apartment in Whitefish, ground floor for his leg injury. Rent is $900 per month. First year paid in advance is $10,800. Security deposit, another $900. Done, Priest said. He'll need furniture, clothes, basic supplies, estimate $4,200. Done. Emergency fund while his disability claim processes. He'll need money for food, utilities, transportation. Suggest $22,000 to cover 6 months minimum. Priest looked around the table. That's $68,800 total. We have $143,000 in the Brotherhood Emergency Fund. Motion to allocate $70,000 to Thomas Sullivan's immediate needs. All in favor? Every hand went up. No hesitation. Unanimous. Bones, Priest turned to the former detective. How do we expedite his disability claim? Bones smiled grimly. We go over the VA's head. I've got a contact in Senator Tester's office. His staff specializes in VA claim advocacy. We send them everything Wire just compiled, plus documentation of Tommy's heroic action. Congressional pressure can move claims that have been stuck for years. Do it. And, Bones added, we might want witnesses. People who saw Tommy struggling, who can testify to the VA's failures in his specific case. Patricia stood. I know where to start. The witnesses came within 3 hours. Bones had set up interview stations in 3 separate conference rooms the hospital administrator had cleared for them. The administrator herself had been so moved by Tommy's story that she'd offered any resources the club needed. The first witness was Margaret Chen, 36 years old, VA claims processor for 9 years. She sat in the chair across from Bones and Wire, hands trembling slightly as she clutched a folder of documents. "I processed Thomas Sullivan's first appeal," Margaret said, her voice quiet but steady. "June 2016. I recommended approval. His service record was clear. His injuries were documented. His Purple Heart was right there in the file. But my supervisor, Kenneth Ross, overturned my recommendation." "Why?" Bones asked. "He said," Margaret swallowed. "He said we were over budget for approvals that quarter, that we needed to deny more claims to stay within funding limits. I argued that a Purple Heart recipient with TBI shouldn't be denied based on budget concerns. He said if I couldn't handle the job requirements, he could find someone who could." "Did you report this?" Margaret's face crumpled. "I tried. I went to the regional director, filed a formal complaint. 2 weeks later, I was reassigned to a different department, processing paperwork instead of claims. My complaint was marked unsubstantiated. Kenneth Ross is still supervising disability claims, still denying veterans based on budget instead of merit." Wire recorded every word. Bones made notes. "How many other claims do you think were denied for the same reason?" "In the 3 years I worked under Ross? Dozens. Maybe over 100. Veterans with clear documentation, undeniable service connection, who were denied because we'd hit some arbitrary quota." Patricia, sitting in on the interview, spoke gently. "That must have been hard to carry." "I think about them every day," Margaret whispered. "Wonder how many are homeless now. How many gave up? How many died waiting?" She looked up, meeting Bones's eyes. "When I heard what Mr. Sullivan did, saving that little boy while he was living under a bridge, while the system that was supposed to help him had abandoned him for 4 years, I knew I had to tell someone. This has to stop." The second witness was James Rivera, 47 years old, city bus driver for Whitefish Transit System. "I've seen Tommy Sullivan probably 300 times over the past 3 years, James said, sitting forward in his chair. "He walks Highway 93 almost every day. Rain, snow, heat, doesn't matter. Walking from the overpass to the VA center and back. 13.6 miles round trip." "Why doesn't he take the bus?" Bones asked. "Route was cut 2 years ago. Budget reduction. The bus that used to run along Highway 93 toward the VA center was eliminated. Now the nearest stop is 4 miles from the VA center. Doesn't save him any walking, so he just walks the whole way." "On a leg with embedded shrapnel," Patricia said quietly. "I've seen him limping. Seen him sit down on the shoulder, rest for 20 minutes, then keep going. One time I stopped. This was about 8 months ago. Asked if he needed help. He said, 'No thank you, sir. Just getting to his appointment.' I said, 'It's 6 more miles and you're already limping.' He said, 'Rangers finish their missions.'" James's voice thickened. "He walked 6 more miles on a broken body to make an appointment the VA probably wouldn't even see him for." "Did he make those appointments?" Wire asked. "I don't know, but I saw him marked as a no-show on the VA schedule more than once when I was dropping off other patients. They said he missed appointments, but I'd seen him walking toward the center that same morning, so either he was late because he's walking 13 miles, or he got turned away at check-in, or something else went wrong. Either way, the system failed him." The third witness was Rebecca Stone, 51 years old, director of Flathead Valley Homeless Shelter. "Tommy Sullivan came to our shelter exactly 4 times over 3 years, Rebecca said. Her voice carried the exhaustion of someone who'd seen too many people fall through too many cracks. Each time, he stayed less than 3 days before leaving. "Why?" Priest asked. He'd joined this interview personally. "PTSD triggers. Our shelter houses 60 people on average per night. Close quarters. Loud noises. people shouting, doors slamming. For someone with combat trauma, it's unbearable. Tommy would come in, clearly desperate for warmth and safety, but by the second night he'd be having panic attacks, hyperventilating, flashbacks. We're not equipped for that level of mental health crisis. Did you refer him to services? Every time? VA Mental Health Services, 17-month wait list. Community Mental Health Center, 4-month wait list. And they don't accept patients with no insurance. Private therapists, $200 per session minimum. Tommy had maybe $14 in his pocket the last time I saw him. Rebecca pulled out her own folder. I kept notes. February 2021. Tommy came in during cold snap, temperatures below 0. Stayed 2 nights, left on 3rd morning. Said he couldn't breathe inside, needed open air. March 2022. Came in with fever, clearly sick. We tried to convince him to stay, get medical care. Left after 1 night. September 2022. Came in looking for help applying for disability benefits. We connected him with a VA advocate. That advocate retired 3 weeks later. Case was never transferred to new person. January 2023. Came in on New Year's Day. Ate dinner. Helped clean up afterward. He always helped. Always contributed. Left before bedtime. That was the last time I saw him before yesterday. What would have helped him? Priest asked. Specialized housing for veterans with PTSD. Small, quiet, independent units with on-site mental health support. But there are only 12 beds in the entire county for that kind of housing, and the wait list is 18 months long. Tommy applied twice. Denied both times. Didn't meet priority criteria. What criteria? Active suicidal ideation or violent behavior. Because apparently you have to be literally dying or dangerous before the system considers you a priority. Rebecca's voice broke. Tommy wasn't dying. He was just suffering quietly. So he didn't qualify. The 4th witness arrived unannounced. His name was Stephen Park, 63 years old, retired Army Ranger who'd served with Tommy in Afghanistan. He stood in the hospital lobby until someone noticed his old Ranger insignia on his jacket and brought him upstairs. When Priest saw him, the old Ranger was crying. I didn't know, Stephen said. I didn't know Tommy was homeless. We lost touch after discharge. I've been trying to find him for 2 years. Saw his name on a Rangers reunion list. Tried calling. No answer. Now I know why. He looked at Priest with devastation in his eyes. My brother was living under a bridge and I didn't know. The Army teaches us Rangers lead the way. We're supposed to look out for each other. I failed him. You're here now, Priest said gently. That matters. I want to help. Whatever he needs. I've got a spare room. I've got time. I've got a car so he doesn't have to walk 13 miles to appointments. I should have been there 4 years ago, but I'm here now. Priest nodded. Put a hand on Stephen's shoulder. Then you're part of the solution. Welcome to the team. By 6:47 p.m. that evening, Bones had compiled a case file that read like an indictment of an entire system. Thomas Sullivan. System failure. Documentation VA. Disability. Claim filed March 2014. Denied August 2014. Insufficient evidence. Appeal filed November 2014. Denied June 2016. Incomplete records. Second appeal filed September 2016. Still pending. Third appeal filed January 2019. Still pending, total. Wait time, 4 years. 3 months with 0 benefits. VA housing assistance. Applied 6 times between 2017-2023. Denied each time, missed appointments, doesn't meet danger threshold, no funding. Result. 3 years, 4 months, homeless, VA. Mental health services. Applied. February 2019 for PTSD. Counseling. Still on wait list after 4 years. 0 appointments received. Transportation barriers. VA center located 6.8 miles from residence. Overpass. No public transit after route elimination 2021. 18.6-mile round-trip walk required, with embedded shrapnel injury. Financial impact. Eligible for approximately $1,377 month disability compensation, if approved. Has received $0 over 4+ year wait period. Total lost benefits. $66,096 minimum. Witnesses to failures. Margaret Chen. VA processor, documented supervisor. Ordering denials based on budget, not merit, James Rivera. Bus driver documented Tommy's 13-mile walks to appointments, later marked no show. Rebecca Stone. Shelter director documented PTSD triggers and lack of appropriate housing. Stephen Park. Fellow ranger documented complete loss of contact support network. Bones looked up from the file at the assembled brothers. This isn't just one failure. It's systematic abandonment. At every level, at every attempt Tommy made to get help, the system said no. Then we say yes, Priest said simply. Wire, where are we on congressional outreach? Senator Tester's office responded within 2 hours. They're flagging Tommy's case as priority. Expect resolution within 90 days instead of years. They're also requesting an investigation into Kenneth Ross's approval practices and the VA's funding-based denial policies. Housing? Apartment secured. Lease starts January 1st. We're furnishing it this week. Brothers are already donating furniture, kitchenware, linens. Tommy will have a home when he's released from the hospital. Medical? Patricia stepped forward. Hospital has agreed to a payment plan. The Brotherhood Fund covers immediate costs. Tommy's out of critical condition. Core temperature stabilized at 97.3 degrees. Pneumonia is responding to antibiotics. Frostbite on his toes is healing. No amputation needed. He'll need physical therapy for his leg, ongoing PTSD treatment, but he's going to make a full recovery. Has he woken up? Marcus asked. 3 hours ago. First thing he asked was whether the boy survived. Marcus's eyes filled. Can I see him? Room 417. He's waiting for you. The hospital room was quiet, except for the steady beep of monitors. Tommy Sullivan lay in the bed, thin frame barely making an impression under the blankets, IV lines running from both arms. His face was still pale, but color was returning. His eyes, sharp, alert, the eyes of a ranger who never stopped assessing, tracked Marcus as he entered with Liam's hand held tight in his own. Mr. Sullivan, Marcus said, his voice thick. I'm Marcus Cordova. This is my son Liam. Tommy's eyes went to the boy. His expression softened in a way that transformed his gaunt face. You're okay, he whispered. Thank God. You're okay. Liam stepped forward, shy but determined. He was holding something. A drawing he'd made in the hospital playroom. Crayons on white paper. A soldier with angel wings standing in snow, holding a small figure safe. This is you, Liam said softly. You're my angel. You saved me, Tommy's eyes filled with tears. Just a soldier, buddy. Just did what rangers do. You almost died, Marcus said. His voice cracked. Core temperature 86.1 degrees. You should be dead. But I'm not. And neither is he. Mission accomplished. Marcus knelt beside the bed. Looked this man in the eyes. This homeless veteran whose society had rendered invisible, who'd been abandoned by every system designed to help him. who'd given everything to save a stranger's child. "You gave my son back to me," Marcus said. "You gave everything you had. Your clothes, your warmth, your life, for a boy you'd never met. There's no words big enough for that. No thank you that covers it." "You don't owe me," Tommy started. "Yes, we do." Marcus pulled something from his pocket. A Hell's Angels challenge coin, the one Priest had given him when he'd earned his full patch years ago. "In our brotherhood, when someone saves your family, they become your family. It's called blood debt. It's sacred." He placed the coin in Tommy's palm. "Thomas Sullivan, you're not alone anymore. You're not invisible anymore. You're not homeless anymore. The Hell's Angels Brotherhood has voted, unanimous, all 240 of us, to make sure you never go without again. You need housing? You have it. Medical care? Covered. Help with the VA? We've got lawyers and advocates and a senator's office making calls. You saved my son, so now you're our brother. That's not charity. That's family." Tommy stared at the coin, at Marcus, at Liam, who'd climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed and was holding Tommy's hand with small fingers that were warm and pink and alive. "I don't—" Tommy's voice broke. "I've been invisible for so long. I forgot what it felt like to matter." "You matter," Liam said seriously. "You're my hero. And Daddy says heroes always have family." For exactly 5 seconds, Tommy couldn't speak, could only hold this child's hand and stare at this biker who'd just promised him salvation and try to process that maybe he'd survived for a reason. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll let you help." "Good," Marcus said, "because we're not taking no for an answer." Outside the door, Priest stood with the assembled brothers. He raised his hand. Every brother present straightened, fist over heart, then extended outward. The salute they reserved for the fallen, for heroes, for brothers who'd earned their eternal respect. Inside the room, Thomas Sullivan, Bronze Star recipient, Purple Heart holder, Army Ranger, homeless veteran, and now the newest member of the Hell's Angels Brotherhood, held a 7-year-old boy's hand and understood that sometimes you don't complete the mission alone. Sometimes the mission completes you. Tommy Sullivan was released from Kalispell Regional Medical Center on December 28th, 6 days after the blizzard. His discharge papers listed a follow-up schedule that would have overwhelmed most people. Physical therapy, twice weekly for his leg. PTSD counseling sessions, starting in January, not 17 months from now, but 17 days, because Senator Tester's office had made 3 phone calls that moved mountains. Pulmonary follow-up for the pneumonia. Wound care for the frostbite healing on his toes. But Tommy wasn't facing it alone. Wire had created a spreadsheet, color-coded. Every appointment, every medication refill, every therapy session mapped out for the next 6 months. He'd printed 3 copies, one for Tommy, one for Stephen Park, who'd officially become Tommy's transportation and accountability partner, and one for the clubhouse board where brothers could see what was needed and when. "You miss an appointment. We know within an hour," Wire explained, showing Tommy the system on a laptop in his new living room. "Not because we're checking up on you like you're a child. Because we've got your back. Because Rangers don't leave anyone behind. And neither do we." The apartment in Whitefish was on the ground floor of a renovated building 3 blocks from Main Street. 2 bedrooms, one for Tommy, one set up as an office/guest room where Stephen could crash when needed. The brothers had furnished it completely. A real bed with a memory foam mattress. Patricia's contribution. Your back's been through enough. A couch that didn't sag. A kitchen table where 4 people could sit comfortably. Dishes, silverware, towels, sheets, all new, all chosen with care. Marcus had hung something on the living room wall. Tommy saw it when he first walked in. His bronze star and purple heart, both reframed, both recovered from the storage unit that had auctioned off his possessions 3 years ago. Bones had tracked them down, bought them back, had them professionally restored. "These belong where people can see them," Marcus said quietly. "Where you can see them. Remember who you are." Tommy stood in his living room. His living room, with a roof and heat and walls that blocked the wind, and couldn't speak, could only nod. Liam was there too, holding his father's hand, but watching Tommy with those big eyes that had seen too much cold and fear. "Do you like it, Mr. Tommy?" "I love it, buddy. Daddy says you can come to dinner every Sunday if you want. We're having spaghetti this week." "I'd like that very much." The logistics unfolded over the next 3 weeks with the same military precision the brothers had shown at the hospital. Priest assigned roles. Steele became Tommy's VA liaison. Former Marine, Purple Heart recipient. He knew every form, every appeal process, every bureaucratic loophole. He sat with Tommy for 6 hours, filling out paperwork, compiling medical records, building the case that should have been approved 4 years ago. On January 15th, Tommy's disability claim was approved. $1,377 per month, backdated 6 months. The check that arrived was for $8,262. Tommy stared at it for 10 minutes. "This is real?" "It's real," Steele confirmed. "And it'll keep coming every month. You've got financial stability now." Patricia coordinated medical care. She drove Tommy to his first PTSD counseling session, sat in the waiting room, drove him home. When he came out shaking from memories he'd unlocked, she didn't push him to talk, just drove him to a quiet overlook outside town, let him sit in silence until his breathing steadied. "Healing isn't linear," she said gently. "Some days will be hard. We'll be here for all of them." Wire handled the practical technology Tommy had lived without for years. Set up a cell phone with unlimited minutes. Showed him how to text, how to check email, how to video call Stephen when he needed to talk. Created an online calendar synced to Stephen's phone, so neither of them missed appointments. "Welcome to the 21st century, Wire said with a grin. "It's weird, but you'll get used to it." Marcus became something between brother and son. He and Liam visited twice a week. They'd bring dinner, eat together at Tommy's new kitchen table, talk about nothing and everything. Liam would show Tommy drawings from school. Tommy would tell Liam age-appropriate stories from his ranger days, the funny ones, the ones about friendship and teamwork and overcoming challenges. One night in February, Marcus asked quietly, "Do you have nightmares about that night? About almost dying?" Tommy considered. "Sometimes. But when I wake up, I'm in a warm bed. Safe. And I remember why it happened. Because I saved your son. That makes the nightmares worth it." Stephen Park, the fellow ranger who'd shown up crying at the hospital, had become Tommy's anchor. He'd moved into the guest room semi-permanently, paying half the rent over Tommy's protests. "You're not mooching, you're splitting costs like roommates do." They fell into routines that felt like brotherhood. Coffee at 0600. Stephen driving Tommy to therapy appointments, watching old war movies together and critiquing the inaccuracies. Going to Rangers reunions where Tommy was welcomed back into a community he'd thought had forgotten him. "You disappeared on us," one old friend said at a March reunion, gripping Tommy's shoulder. "We thought you were dead. Don't do that again." "Won't," Tommy promised. Got too many people counting on me now. The Hells Angels found him work, not charity, real work. Wrench, the club's master mechanic, hired Tommy part-time at the garage. $15 an hour, flexible schedule, PTSD-friendly environment. The work was simple. Organizing tools, maintaining inventory, sweeping floors. But it gave Tommy purpose, structure, the dignity of earning a paycheck. You show up on time, work hard, never complain, Wrench said after Tommy's first month. I'm giving you a raise, $17 an hour. You've earned it. On March 14th, Tommy's 54th birthday, the clubhouse threw a party. Not huge, maybe 40 people, brothers and their families. Liam had made a banner, "Happy Birthday, Hero Tommy," in crayon letters. There was cake. There were jokes. There was the kind of easy warmth that comes from being surrounded by people who genuinely care whether you exist. Priest stood, raised a glass. To Tommy Sullivan, Ranger, hero, brother. The man who proved that the people society overlooks are sometimes the ones with the biggest hearts. Everyone raised their glasses. To Tommy! Tommy looked around the room, at Marcus and Liam, at Stephen, at Wire and Steele and Patricia and Bones and Wrench and Priest and all the others, and felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years, 3 months and 11 days. He felt home. That night, as the party wound down, Liam climbed into Tommy's lap. He'd been doing that lately, seeking proximity to the man who'd saved him, building trust, creating bonds. Tommy had learned to accept it, to let this child feel safe with him. "Mr. Tommy," Liam said quietly, "can you sing the song? The one you sang in the snow?" Tommy's throat tightened, but he nodded, started to hum, then sing, soft and slightly off-key. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Liam joined in, his voice sweet and clear. "How I wonder what you are." Marcus watched from across the room, his eyes wet. Patricia put a hand on his shoulder. "He's going to be okay," she whispered. "They both are. Up above the world, so high." Outside, through the clubhouse windows, motorcycles lined the parking lot in perfect formation, chrome gleaming under security lights, leather vests hanging on pegs inside, the symbols of a brotherhood that protected its own. Like a diamond in the sky. Tommy held Liam close, this child who'd been dying in the snow, who was now warm and safe and loved. Finished the song with him, their voices blending. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." Liam looked up at him. "That was Mommy's song. Now it's our song too." "Yeah, buddy. Now it's our song too." 6 months after the blizzard, on a warm June afternoon, Thomas Sullivan stood at mile marker 127.4 on Highway 93, the spot where his makeshift shelter under the overpass had been for 3 years, 4 months, and 6 days. It looked different now. Smaller somehow, less like home, and more like what it actually was, a concrete gap in a bridge where a desperate man had learned to survive. Stephen stood beside him, hands in pockets. "You okay?" "Yeah." Tommy nodded slowly. "Just wanted to see it one more time. Remember where I came from, so I never forget what it felt like to be invisible." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Tommy turned away, climbed into Stephen's truck, and they drove to Liam's Little League game. The transformation was documented. Wire, being Wire, had kept statistics. Thomas Sullivan, 6-month outcome. Data: housing, 184 consecutive days in stable apartment. Previous record, 3 days. Medical, 100% attendance at all 31 scheduled appointments. Employment, 520 hours worked. $8,840 earned weight gain. 31 pounds, from 168 to 199, healthy range for his height. VA claim. Approved. 1,377. Month, 100% on-time payments. PTSD treatment. 18 therapy sessions completed. Significant symptom reduction. Community integration. Attending Rangers reunions, social events, Liam's sports games. Financial stability. $12,400 saved in emergency fund, systemic changes initiated. Sullivan's Law introduced in Montana legislature. Expedited VA processing for homeless veterans, maximum 90 days. Not 4+ years. Emergency Housing Fund increased by $2.3 million statewide. VA transportation services expanded to rural areas. Kenneth Ross, VA supervisor who ordered budget-based denials, under investigation. Suspended pending review. Hell's Angels. No vet left behind. Program. Launched across 47 chapters nationwide. 127 homeless veterans housed and assisted with VA claims in first 6 months. Partnership with VA to identify and assist veterans in crisis. $340,000 raised through Brotherhood fundraising events. But the numbers didn't capture everything. They didn't capture the sound of Tommy laughing at dinner, something Marcus hadn't heard for the first 3 months. They didn't capture Liam running to hug Tommy after hitting his first home run in Little League. They didn't capture the morning Stephen found Tommy sitting on the apartment balcony, coffee in hand, watching sunrise, and realized Tommy hadn't had a nightmare in 2 weeks. They didn't capture the moment Tommy walked into a VA appointment, and the new claims supervisor, the one hired after Kenneth Ross's suspension, looked at his file and said, "Mr. Sullivan, I want to apologize. On behalf of the system that failed you, I am deeply sorry. That should never have happened." Tommy had just nodded. "Make sure it doesn't happen to the next guy." On July 12th, exactly 1 year after Liam and his mother had been in the car accident that started everything, Marcus organized something different, not a memorial, a celebration. They gathered at Murphy's Gas and Go, the place where Liam had wandered into the blizzard. 20 Hell's Angels. Their families, Tommy, Stephen, and a small crowd of locals who'd heard the story and wanted to meet the hero. Liam stood in front, holding a poster he'd made. Big letters. Heroes everywhere. "A year ago," Liam said, reading from a script he'd written himself with some help from his dad. "I got lost in a blizzard. I was so cold and so scared, and I thought I was going to die. But Mr. Tommy found me. He gave me his jacket and his shirts and his sleeping bag. He used his own body to keep me warm. He almost died so I could live." He looked at Tommy, who stood near the back, uncomfortable with attention as always. Mr. Tommy was homeless. He'd been waiting for help for 4 years. The people who were supposed to help him said no. But when he found me, he didn't say no. He said Rangers don't leave anyone behind. He saved me even though nobody had saved him. Liam held up the poster higher. "But now we're saving him. Because that's what family does, and Mr. Tommy is my family now." The crowd applauded. Tommy wiped his eyes, trying to be discreet about it. Failing. But this story isn't really about blizzards or patches or the rumble of motorcycles on Montana highways. It's about a society that creates invisible people. People who served their country, who sacrificed their health and sanity and futures only to come home to systems designed to fail them. People who wait years for help that should take weeks. People who live under bridges in states where winter kills, while bureaucrats cite budget constraints and insufficient evidence. It's about Thomas Sullivan, Bronze Star recipient, Purple Heart holder, Army Ranger who survived 3 tours in combat zones, reduced to camping under an overpass, walking 13.6 miles for appointments the VA would mark him absent for, collecting cans to buy food, invisible to every person who drove past him for 3 years, 4 months, and 6 days. And it's about that same man, starving and freezing and forgotten, finding a dying child in the snow, and making a choice that revealed who he'd always been. A protector, a brother, a hero. There are 37,000 homeless veterans in America right now. 37,000 Thomas Sullivans. Good people who served, who sacrificed, who came home to a country that promised to care for them and then forgot they existed. There are countless more children like Liam, vulnerable, endangered, desperately needing someone to see them, to act, to refuse to look away. And there are people like you. Reading this story, holding the power to change someone's narrative, you don't need a leather vest to be a protector. You don't need 240 motorcycles or a brotherhood of bikers standing behind you. You just need to care enough to act. Pay attention to the invisible people in your community. The homeless veteran at the intersection. The struggling family at the grocery store. The child who seems too quiet, too careful, too aware. Ask the uncomfortable questions. When someone says, "I'm fine," but clearly isn't, don't accept it. Push gently. Offer help specifically. "I'm making dinner. Can I bring you some?" Works better than, "Let me know if you need anything." Call the right people. Veterans Crisis Line, 988, then press. 1. Local veteran services organizations. Community advocates who know how to navigate systems designed to confuse and delay. Make noise. When you see systemic failures, report them. Write your representatives. Share stories like Tommy's. Demand better from institutions that are supposed to serve those who served us. Stand in the gap between a veteran and the VA bureaucracy that's failing them. Between a child and the danger threatening them. Between someone who's invisible and a society that's chosen not to see. Because here's what Tommy Sullivan proved that frozen December night. The person society discards might be exactly the hero we need most. The person living under a bridge might have more courage and honor than people living in mansions. The person with nothing might be willing to give everything. And here's what the Hells Angels proved. Real strength isn't about violence or intimidation. It's about using whatever power you have to protect those who can't protect themselves. It's about seeing someone who's fallen and refusing to step over them. It's about turning blood debt from an excuse for revenge into a commitment to salvation. Tommy Sullivan spent 1,562 days homeless, invisible, abandoned by every system designed to help him. It took one night, one choice, one mission, one child to remind the world he existed. It took 240 bikers with leather vests and rough hands and fierce hearts to make sure he'd never be invisible again. And it took one 7-year-old boy singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" in a clubhouse full of bikers to prove that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the system that failed you. If this story moved you, subscribe to Gentle Bikers, and share it with someone who needs to remember that heroes exist in unexpected places. Drop a comment telling us who your protector was, or who you protected when nobody else would. Tell us you stand with Tommy, with Liam, with every veteran waiting for help that should have come years ago. Because this world needs more people who refuse to look away. More people who see the invisible. More people who act when it matters most. Maybe that person is you. The apartment on the ground floor in Whitefish was warm that September evening. Tommy sat at his kitchen table, doing something he'd never imagined he'd do again, helping Liam with homework. Fractions. Liam was struggling with denominators. Think of it like missions, Tommy explained. You've got the whole mission. That's your whole number. Then you've got parts of the mission. Those are your fractions. You need to figure out how the parts fit into the whole. Liam's face brightened. Oh, like how you gave me all your clothes. That was the whole mission, and each piece was a fraction of keeping me warm. Exactly like that, buddy. Through the window, Tommy could hear motorcycles rumbling past. The brothers on their evening ride. He wasn't with them tonight, had homework duty, but he'd ride with them tomorrow. Had his own bike now, purchased used with money he'd saved from work. Nothing fancy. But it ran, and that's what mattered. His field jacket hung on a peg by the door. Cleaned, repaired where Liam had torn it slightly that frozen night. Still his most prized possession, but now it sat in a warm apartment instead of a frozen shelter. His phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Dinner Sunday? Liam wants to make you his famous spaghetti, frozen meatballs and jar sauce, but he's proud. Tommy smiled, typed back, wouldn't miss it. On the corner of his desk, barely visible in the evening light, sat a small plastic Spider-Man figure. Liam had given it to him as a gift last month. So you always remember you're my hero, Mr. Tommy. Tommy picked it up, held it for a moment. Thought about the boy he'd found in the snow. The father who'd refused to let him stay invisible. The brotherhood that had given him back his life. The system that was slowly, incrementally changing because people had demanded better. He set the toy back down. Turned to Liam. Okay, buddy. Next problem. If Tommy has 3/4 of a pizza and eats 1/4, how much is left? That's easy. 2/4, or 1/2. Smart kid. Your dad's raising you right. Daddy says you're raising me, too. Says it takes a village. Tommy's throat tightened. Yeah, I guess it does. Outside, the Montana sky turned orange and pink. Motorcycles rumbled in the distance, carrying brothers home to their families. Inside, a former homeless veteran helped a 7-year-old with fractions, both of them warm, both of them safe, both of them proof that sometimes the most broken people put together make something whole. Rangers don't leave anyone behind, and neither do the people who love them.